The One D&D playtest is upon us. And guys, this is our chance to nurture and grow this game that we love so much. So today's episode is going to be all about the things that I think you should be keeping in mind as you dive into the playtest and what you need to do in order to make sure that your feedback is actionable. What's up, everybody? I'm Anne Richmond, aka Hearthsinger, the head bard in charge around these parts, and I would hate for you to be lost. So before we dive into how I think you should handle the playtest, let's talk about what it is, just in case you haven't heard yet. So as we all know, D&D 5e has welcomed droves of new players and enthusiasts to our hobby, and One D&D seeks to re-examine the current system and look for ways to improve it without creating an entirely new mold. That means they're looking to update classes, feats, and even some rules while keeping the basic framework of 5e intact. So far, we've seen new character origins explored, as well as what they're calling expert classes. So in One D&D, they're splitting all of the classes into different groups, and the first three, the rogue, the bard, and the ranger, are called experts. Guys, there are lots of other content creators out there who are diving into these new options as they're presented and giving their opinions. So I'm going to do something a little bit different, which is to talk about playtesting itself. And the thing that I really think it's important to keep in mind here is that just like any good experiment, you need to make sure that there's a control in order to test what the variables do to the game. So in order to really test how these new versions sing, it's my opinion that you should really use published material for the adventure. And while no adventure is perfect and everything gets molded and toyed with at the table, I think there's a certain amount of testing and editing that goes into the process of creating these pre-written adventures that we don't get at home with our homebrew storytelling. And while I would love to give these new rules time to marinate in a longer campaign, that's not really possible because the amount of time that we have to put into getting the playtest on the table and then submitting feedback is fairly limited. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I recommend checking out the adventures in the anthology books like Candlekeep and Radiant Citadel, because you can choose adventures at different levels or skip around to see the same class in different iterations as you would hit really significant milestones. And with that desire to test these variables, it's important that we also limit them. I probably would test them one at a time in a one-shot or in a simple encounter, just to make sure that we're not seeing tons of new rules ping-ponging off of each other at the same time, and that we're really able to see each new version of the class for what it is. So if you intend to test, let's say, all three expert classes before the feedback surveys are due, I really think what you need to do is only run encounters or skill challenges with each of the classes individually in a group of already published versions of different classes. Is that too much? I guess let me know in the comments if you think I'm being a little too extreme, because I'm willing to take feedback from time to time. Another thing that I really recommend is to either play a class that you already have a ton of experience with, so you'll naturally know the differences, but let's say you wanted to test the new rogue class and you've never really spent that much time actually playing and digging around in the rogue class yourself. It might be good to build, a level 3 character using the new rules and a level 3 character using the existing rules, just so that you have in your head what the real differences are going to be. Keep in mind that going into a playtest, designers are really swinging for the fences. So before you have a huge reaction to something you think is totally OP and awesome, or totally OP and it's breaking the game, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to see how awesome they can make you before it breaks things or makes things unfair to other players at the table or makes things hard to balance in the moment for the DM. So make sure that you see that for what it is as you head into your playtest, and be kind, be honest with your feedback, but be patient with the process rather than simply having that knee-jerk reaction that like, oh, they're ruining the game. Because the fact is they won't know if they are until we play test, and that's what we're here to do. So as you're playing, keep notes on everything that stands out to you, things you liked, things you thought were okay, but you had the opinion before sitting down to play that they would be a bigger deal, or things, of course, that you didn't like. And for all of that, keep in mind the circumstances that led you there. What was the party makeup? How many hit points were you at when something happened? All these things sort of come together to create in the designer's mind like how this came into be, and it will also keep track of rules that may have been interpreted not as intended at the table, which is really huge because sometimes you think as a designer or a writer that you're being super clear, and it turns out when it gets into the hands of the masses that maybe it wasn't as clear as you thought. So you're really trying to give them the tools to reverse engineer what happened at your table to get you there and get a better understanding of why something really worked well or didn't work at all for you. So now let's talk about the very important factor of how much time you have to actually run these games and get your feedback in. They're releasing new content every month, and then they'll say, all right, we're going to start accepting surveys on this day, and you have 2 weeks to get all of your feedback in. So that's actually not a lot of time. It's like a month to 6 weeks maybe to get all of the information in. And as we all know, it's very hard to get people to sit down at the D&D table, especially when it's not a force of habit that you're doing every single week. So it might be a good idea for you to find a group of friends that are really into this whole playtesting thing and just make a regular habit of, okay, what's going to be our play test material date every month, and just try to stick to it to participate as much as you can. So it also might be important to find a group of people that you want to run this play test material with and just be super dedicated to meeting, the same time every month to run it, and be communicative on Discord or wherever you're having your conversations about who's going to be taking on what roles in order to move it through the process. Wizards is pretty good about announcing on Twitter and all other social platforms when this stuff comes out and linking you to it, so it's not like it'll be hard for you to find. But I love that on D&D Beyond you can claim the content of the playtest material, and while you can't use it in the character builder, I can just go to my source books and find the one D&D section and just pull up the frequently asked questions and any new updates that have come out right from there. And that's my advice. I'm hoping to participate in some of these cycles with some of my friends, but it is a pretty quick turnaround, as I mentioned, for all of the other content that I am currently working on. So I want to hear from you guys. If you're playtesting this stuff, what do you think? What do you think of the expert classes? What do you think of the origins? How are you fitting it into your schedule? Give your own advice. I'd love to hear it. And if you enjoyed this video, please come back for more TTRPG topics right here on my channel. You can give this video a like. That really helps us out on getting discovered by new awesome people just like you. And of course, subscribe. Come back, hang out, and I'll see you right here on Hearthsinger Games next time, baby. Bye. There's a real weird energy in the studio today, y'all. Like, weird.